You wake up in a city that shouldn't exist. The streets twist in impossible ways, and no matter where you go, you feel like someone or something is watching you. Welcome to Carcosa. This isn't just a solo RPG, it's a descent into madness. Heinrich's Guide to Carcosa takes you through a world of masked figures and choices that shape your fate in ways you won't fully understand until it's too late. The question isn't whether you'll survive, it's whether you'll ever be the same again. Now, I'll be breaking down exactly what makes this experience special, how the mechanics work, how well it captures the themes of The King in Yellow, and whether you might be interested in playing. But don't worry, I won't be spoiling the story, so you can go in fresh. And if you're curious about what ending I got, I'll be sharing my investigator's fate and a little about the story over on my Patreon. If you want to see how deep the madness went, check it out there. At its core, Heinrich's Call of Cthulhu Guide to Carcosa is a solo adventure for a Call of Cthulhu role-playing game that doesn't require a keeper. Instead, you're guided through the game by the book itself, making choices, rolling dice, and uncovering the story one decision at a time. The book is structured like a 2-act play, heavily inspired by The King in Yellow. Each act contains multiple scenes, and your path through them isn't linear. Your choices and dice rolls will determine which parts of Carcosa you see. You'll create your own investigator, either completely from scratch using standard Call of Cthulhu rules, or you can follow Prologue 3, which offers a faceted guider character creation method. Let's talk about the presentation and atmosphere. From the moment you open the book, you can tell that this is more than just a game with rules, it's an immersive experience. The art and layout is one of the highlights of this campaign for me. The art is absolutely gorgeous and unsettling, perfectly capturing the dreamlike horror of Carcosa. It's not just there for decoration, it actively reinforces the mood of the story. Every new scene feels like it's peeling back a layer of something just slightly wrong, and the artwork helps drive that feeling home. When I got to a new scene, I found myself being excited to see what art I would discover. The layout is also really well done. It's easy to navigate, which is crucial in a solo adventure where you'll be flipping back and forth between different entries constantly. The only thing I think could be improved here is the map labeling. There are some predetermined locations, and if their act and scene numbers were clearly labeled, it would make navigating even a little bit more smooth. But overall, the book is extremely well structured, with an easy place to remind yourself of keywords and rules in the front, and a clear system to find what scene you're going to go to and where to find that in the book. There's also a music playlist, and this is one of my favorite features. The book comes with a suggested playlist of music, but it's not just a playlist that you put in the background. Each scene has a specific track listed that corresponds to it. So the atmosphere is handpicked to give you an immersive experience. Plus, there's a Spotify playlist already made, and I found it really easy to navigate since it was in the order of the scenes anyway. A cool added effect to this is my brain started associating some of the music with specific scenes. So the beginning lake scene is one you're likely to visit multiple times, as this is where you go back to if you die or go insane. So when I hopped back to the lake and played the song, it was like very deja vu feeling, like I've been here before and it doesn't feel quite right to be here again. This was an unexpected, unsettling feeling, which is great for setting the mood. I cannot stress enough how much the music added to the experience. It made Carcosa feel alive, like a place I was genuinely exploring rather than just reading about. Now let's talk about the writing. Beyond the visuals and layout, the writing itself is strong as well. The descriptions are vivid, capturing both eerie beauty and suffocating dread of Carcosa. The prose feels deliberate. Every passage is crafted to pull you deeper into the story, making you question what's real and what's part of the performance. Even when my investigator met their end, the writing made it feel meaningful, like a final act in a doomed play, rather than just game over. So here's an example of some of the writing from a scene where you go to a clinic. Stairs wet with moisture from suddenly humid air cause you to take each step slowly. Rows of storefronts line the sides of the underground subway corridor. The stores advertise sales for toys, masks, and children's supplies. All of them are closed, many with "Everything Must Go" signs prominently displayed. Amidst the closed storefronts, light emerges from a single room. The markings on the outside walls identify it as a medical clinic. The sound of a crying child comes from within. Looking through the storefront window reveals only a small examination room and filth-encrusted autopsy table on which something unrecognizable lies motionless. Turning back, you are confronted by a mob of unmoving figures. the several dozen figures seemingly materialized behind you while you were investigating. Each of their limbs is controlled in different shapes and angles, as though caught mid-dance, having stopped only the moment you turned around. So I think the writing really elevates the story and adds to the overall atmosphere of the game. Let's move on to gameplay and mechanics. This uses standard Call of Cthulhu rules, so if you've played before, you'll feel right at home. You'll roll dice for skill checks, track your sanity, and lose hit points. But death and insanity don't always mean the end of the game. Especially in Act 1, there's a decent chance that the game will continue even if you go to 0 hit points or go insane. That being said, it's still Cthulhu and it can be brutal sometimes. I learned this firsthand because on my first playthrough, I died in the first scene. A mix of bad rolls led to dying and ending the run, and it made me laugh and it was easy enough to start over. Overall, I thought the game did a good job of balancing letting you continue through your playthrough versus having that threat of death and insanity that could potentially end the game for you. One of the most unique mechanics is the mask system. At the start of the game, every investigator wears one of 4 masks: the mask of the lost, the mask of the addict, the mask of the masochist, or the mask of the guilty. These masks start more subtle and add flavor in Act 1, but in Act 2 they become really important, shaping the way the story unfolds. This alone makes me want to play at least 4 times to see how much it changes the experience based on which mask you're wearing. I love that the masks played into the King in Yellow theme, but also that they became integral to the story. Oftentimes in scenes, it would direct you to a specific entry depending on which mask you wore. And this made it feel unique, and even each mask could be customized so that the exact story you tell with that mask would feel different every time. Another unique mechanic is the break system, which ties into the overall theme of trauma in the story. Your mask is bound by 3 chains representing unresolved trauma. As you play, the text will tell you when to break a chain, or worse, when to reforge one, and the more chains you break, the closer you become to reconciling your trauma. It's an incredibly clever way to mechanize character growth, and it makes the game feel like it hits on a personal horror note as well. These chains come into play heavily in the second act as well, and have a larger role in what endings your investigator will get. Something I love about this campaign was it didn't feel linear. It genuinely felt like an exploration of Carcosa. You're given a partially blank map with locations, and if you get to a blank spot, you roll the dice to see where you go. But here's a twist: as you explore, you fill in the map and it stays that way for future playthroughs. That means your version of Carcosa will be completely different from anyone else's. I thought this was a unique aspect to the game that made the world feel personal and unsettling. Another mechanic is the Halls of Carcosa, and this is something that triggers every time you go to explore to add events in between scenes. And this is a mechanic that I did find a bit fiddly. So you go to the halls, which is a D100 table to roll for a random event. Sometimes it's a scene you're directed to, but other times it's a random event that gives you an item or results in a sanity roll. I did overall feel like the halls were a little underwhelming and a bit fiddly, as there was a lot of flipping the pages every time you explored. I found myself being excited to get to the next location. Instead, I was like, oh yeah, I have to go do the halls. I did like this from a thematic standpoint. It reinforces that Carcosa is unpredictable, but in practice, it slowed things down for me and was a bit too much flipping back and forth. So I ended up doing a home rule. Instead of checking the table every single time, I only did it every other time, and when I skipped it, I just reduced my sanity by 1. Let's talk about replayability. I give a lot of credit to this guide to being highly replayable, and that I continue to be excited to replay it. There are so many branching paths, so many different ways each scene can unfold, that I can confidently say that this will never be the same game twice. Every choice you make and every dice roll carries weight. Do you investigate the eerie sound coming, or do you press forward ignoring the whispering voices? Do you push your luck on a risky roll, or do you play it safe and risk missing out on crucial information? It's the kind of game where a single bad roll or impulsive decision can change your story entirely, and sometimes in Call of Cthulhu fashion, those failures are just as satisfying as the successes. And because of the different masks and structure, there may be scenes that you don't see until your 4th or 5th playthrough. I found myself wanting to replay just to see what I had missed. There were illustrations I never saw, music tracks I never heard, and locations on my personalized map that I never visited. That makes the world feel alive, like I was truly exploring Carcosa, and my next journey, I discover something new. Now, this might sound a little bit strange considering how horrifying the setting is, but this game actually gave me a cozy feeling, It's the kind of experience that makes you want to bundle up in a blanket, dim the lights, put on music, and lose yourself in the world. It's immersive in a way that few solo RPGs are. It's not just about horror, it's about the discovery, the slow unraveling of the unknown. The creeping sense of loneliness and unease as you wander through a world that feels like a dream you can't quite wake up from. And that's what makes it so replayable. It's not just about winning or beating the game, it's about experiencing the story in different ways. Every playthrough will bring something new, whether it's a different fate or a new piece of unsettling art or simply the chance to experience its haunting atmosphere one more time. So who is this for? I'll be honest, I don't usually play a lot of solo RPGs. For me, one of the highlights of tabletop role-playing is about sitting around a table with other people, bouncing off of their energy and reacting to their choices. But the Guide to Carcosa felt like a different solo RPG experience. This game was so well crafted and immersive that it was easy to lose myself in it. If you're someone who normally doesn't enjoy solo RPGs, I encourage you to give this one a shot because it does many things that many solo RPGs don't. A little bit about new versus experienced players. Can a brand new Call of Cthulhu player jump into this? I would say yes, but with some caveats. The book assumes you know how Call of Cthulhu works. It doesn't spend a lot of time explaining basic mechanics like how skill checks work, how sanity functions, or what an improvement roll is. So if you've never played Call of Cthulhu before, you can still play, but you might find yourself flipping back and forth between the rulebook to fill in the gaps. That's why I'd say that while a beginner can absolutely play this, they might have a smoother experience with a bit of help. And that's where the one-on-one option comes in. You can play this with one keeper and one player as well. So having a keeper to handle rules, music, and bring an atmosphere to descriptions, this could be helpful for a newer player who might need a little bit of guidance. That said, while I enjoyed that one-on-one session, I actually preferred playing this completely solo. Something about reading it on my own, curled up in a blanket, headphones in, music playing, made it incredibly personal and immersive. So some of my final thoughts. One of the most powerful aspects of the book is how deeply personal it feels. In the afterword, Heinrich describes the story as an expression of his own experience of Carcosa, saying a place filled with sadness and fleeting joy, somewhere we should want to leave but find ourselves getting lost in all the time. That quote really stuck with me because it speaks to what this story really is. Carcosa isn't just a setting, it's a reflection of loss, trauma, and the strange pull of places we know are unhealthy but struggle to escape. The game constantly plays that tension, forcing you to make choices between what feels right and what feels inevitable. It adds a real emotional weight to the experience, and I wasn't expecting to feel so attached to my investigator, but by the time it was over, I did, and I had quite an emotional ending. The art, music, writing, and mechanics all come together to create something deeply personal and atmospheric. I highly recommend this to any Call of Cthulhu player. If you're interested, I've put a link in the description. And if you want to see how my playthrough ended, check out my Patreon. Thank you so much for supporting me there and for watching me here. I really appreciate it. Have a great day. Bye.